the Pedia. General Studies video lectures, notes and practice. Question sets for engineering service examination, and other conducted examinations. In this video we had discussed a subtopic of energy and environment, which is environmental impact assessment here. Strategic environmental assessment C. One of the most recent trends in here is its application at earlier, more strategic stages of development at the level of policies, plans and programs, and is known as strategic environmental assessment C. C is defined as the formalized, systematic and comprehensive process of evaluating the environmental impacts of a policy, plan or program PPP and its alternatives, including the preparation of a written report on the findings of that evaluation, and using the findings in publicly accountable decision-making to Riffle, et al. 1992. In other words, the era of policies, plans and programs, keeping in mind that the process of evaluating environmental impacts at a strategic level is not necessarily the same as that at a project level. In theory, PPPs are tiered. A policy provides a framework for the establishment of plans. Plans provide frameworks for programs, and programs lead to projects. The years for these different PPP tiers can themselves be tiered as shown in figure, and so the issues at higher tiers need not be reconsidered as the lower tiers. This is a hierarchy exists between policies, plans and programs. With policies are at the top level of conceptualization and generality. Plans are one level down from policies, and programs. Programs make plans more specific by including a time schedule for specific activities. Implementation of a program involves carrying out specific projects, which can be subjected to traditional year. Now we will be discussed about the rationale and scope. 12. Rationale and scope. In broad terms, the rationale for C of policies, plans and programs falls into three main categories: strengthening project year, advancing the sustainability agenda, and addressing cumulative and large-scale effects. The year practice is constrained by certain limitations and weaknesses. These include structural weaknesses centered on the relatively late stage at which year is usually applied in decision-making. Put differently, high-order questions of whether, where and what type of development should take place are decided, often with little or no environmental analysis. Project-by-project year is also an ineffective means of examining these issues. C. or an equivalent approach can be used as a complement to project level to incorporate environmental considerations and alternatives directly into policy, plan and program design. Thus, when applied systematically in the upstream part of the decision cycle and to the economic, fiscal and trade policies that guide the overall course of development, C can be a vector for a sustainability approach to planning and decision-making. Brundtland Commission of WCAD, 1987 and Agenda 21 advanced, 1992. This upstream approach can also help in making year projects more consequential and reducing the time and effort involved in their preparation. C may yield significant other benefits as well. For example, by ruling out certain kinds of development at the policy level, reducing the need for many project leveler and thus relieving pressure where institutional and/or skills capacity is limited. Arguably, C offers a better opportunity than project-level impact assessment to address cumulative effects. Recently, considerable efforts have been made to extend ESE-based frameworks to encompass certain types of cumulative effects. These deal reasonably well with the ancillary impacts of large-scale projects, for example, dams, transport infrastructure, and the incremental effects of numerous small-scale actions of a similar type, for example, road realignment and improvement. However, more pervasive cumulative effects and large-scale environmental change, which are the end result of multiple actions and stresses that cut across policy and ecological boundaries, are difficult to address. In principle, these can be addressed best by C of policies, plans and programs. In practice, however, this has not proven to be the case. Now, what then is the scope of C? Most practitioners view C as a decision-aiding rather than a decision-making process. In other words, it is seen as a tool for forward planning to be flexibly applied at various stages of the policy-making cycle. Under this broad perspective, C encompasses assessments of both broad policy initiatives and more concrete programs and plans that have physical and spatial references, for example, town and regional plans, regional development programs, etc. With this scope of coverage, one problem becomes evident, and that is, the methodologies to be applied at the opposite ends of the decision-making spectrum differ markedly. However, the principles of ESE apply at all levels. Now we will be discussed about the topic comparison of ESE and C. 13. Comparison of ESE and C. ESE is usually reactive to a development proposal. C is proactive and informs development proposals. ESE assesses the effect of a proposed development on the environment. C assesses the effect of a policy, plan or program on the environment, or the effect of the environment on development needs and opportunities. ESE addresses a specific project. C addresses areas, regions or sectors of development. ESE assesses direct impacts and benefits. C assesses cumulative impacts and identifies implications and issues for sustainable development. ESE focuses on the mitigation of impacts. C focuses on maintaining a chosen level of environmental quality. ESE narrow perspective and a high level of detail. C wide perspective and a low level of detail to provide a vision and overall framework. ESE focuses on project-specific impacts. C creates a framework against which impacts and benefits can be measured. Tiered planning system for ESE and C is shown in table given below. Table-tiered planning system for ESE. C process is as comprehensive as ESE, if not as exhaustive. We will discuss this next. 14. C process. In Project ESE, impact mitigation, that is, avoiding or reducing the project's impacts, restoring the affected environment, or compensating for adverse effects, is often considered a separate stage in the process. In C, instead, the focus of the project is on reconsidering the PPP from a cross-cutting perspective, leading to an improved understanding of the PPP and possibly changes to the PPP. Each stage considers whether and how the PPP can be changed and improved. These changes mostly involve rewriting the PPP to minimize any negative environmental/sustainability impacts, but could also involve establishing management guidelines for the implementation of the PPP, placing constraints on the lower-tier PPP. For instance, establishing criteria for identifying future developments away from sensitive sites or requiring C/E for lower-tier PPPs and projects. Or, developing environmentally beneficial shadow PPPs or projects. As such, mitigation in C is an ongoing process as illustrated in figure. And C process involves the following stages. By screening at this stage, responsible agencies carry out an appropriate assessment of all strategic decisions with significant environmental consequences. Timing at this stage, results of the assessment are available sufficiently early for use in the preparation of the strategic decision. 3. Environmental scoping. At this stage, all relevant information is provided to judge whether an initiative should proceed and objectives could be achieved in a more environmentally friendly way, that is, through alternative initiatives or approaches. 4. Other factors. At this stage, sufficient information is available on other factors, including socio-economic considerations, either parallel to, or integrated in, the assessment. The review. At this stage, the quality of the process and information is safeguarded by an effective review mechanism. 6. Participation. At this stage, sufficient information on the views of all legitimate stakeholders, including the public affected, is available early enough to be used effectively in the preparation of the strategic decision. 7. Documentation. At this stage, results are identifiable, understandable and available to all parties affected by the decision. 8. Decision-making and accountability. At this stage, it should be clear to all stakeholders and all parties affected how the results were taken into account in decision-making. 9. Post-decision. At this stage, sufficient information on the actual impacts of implementing the decision is gained to judge whether or not the decision should be amended. Adapted from Sadler, 1998, B. and Tonkverheim, 1998. Note that though the stages are listed in a particular order, it does not mean that they occur in that very sequence. In other words, stages do overlap. Methodological difference between ESE and CR. Scale of C is wider than ESE as there will be number of activities involved, larger extent of impacts to be assessed, and greater range of alternatives defined, and also wider area of significance. time interval is longer, and C, this is between planning, approval, and implementation. Even data collection in C is time-consuming stage. Alternatives chosen at project level can be easily differentiated, and they're abstract in nature, such as policy, not technical. And C report should be regarded as a documentation of the processes used and available, when necessary, for later review. The real value in C is as a creative tool in the design cycle of the formulation and reformulation of PPPs, modifying them where necessary to respond to environmental/sustainability objective. Benefits and constraints of C. Some of the benefits of C include the following: promoting integrated environment and development decision-making, facilitating the design of environmentally sustainable policies and plans, providing for consideration of a larger range of alternatives than is normally possible in project year, taking account, where possible, of cumulative effects, particularly by focusing on the consequences of sectoral or regional level developments and global change, enhancing institutional efficiency, particularly where area-related skills, operational funds and institutional capacities are limited, by obviating the need for unnecessary project levelers, strengthening and streamlining project O by incorporating environmental goals and principles into policies, plans and programs that shape individual projects, identifying in advance the impacts and information requirements, resolving strategic issues and information requirements, and reducing time and effort taken to conduct reviews. Providing a mechanism for public engagement in discussions relevant to sustainability at a strategic level. Some of the constraints of C include the following. 1. A level of institutional maturity is necessary, which allows for effective intersectoral dialogue, for environmental considerations to be taken into account in formulating, revising and implementing policies, plans and programs effectively, and to influence decision-making. 2. Appropriate skills are needed within government departments/agencies and private sectors, for example, industry, environmental consulting companies, and amongst academics and NGOs. 3. There is a need for adequate capacity in these sectors, both human and financial resources. In practice, the extent to which the benefits of C are achieved will also depend on a number of other important factors, such as provisions made for C, for example, legal versus administrative, prior record of implementation and acceptance by decision makers, degree to which overall strategies of sustainable development are in place, scope and levels of process application, with the broadest range of benefits being gained from C systems that include review of policies as well as plans and programs. Adapted from Dallowell, Clayton and Sadler, 1995, and Sadler Baxter, 1997,